education is what is actually going on. What is it?
Hilary Joffrey, thank you so much.
This week, today, Fridays, 6 to 7 p.m. Stephen Grootes on SAfm.
Kevin, I must just ask you about these coal trucks. I mean, there's so many of them. It's extraordinary. I mean, I've seen videos of people counting trucks. They get to like 300 trucks on the side of the road just waiting to try and offload their coal.
Stephen, we've never seen this sort of thing before. Way back in the early 70s, the then government created the Richards Bay coal line, which was designed primarily to export coal. But fast forwarding to today, that coal line either cannot contain or carry or expand to what is being demanded. So there's a lot of trucks now moving on the road, and we haven't seen this before, no.
Gavin Kelly, CEO of the Road Freighters.
SAfm Sunrise with Stephen Grootes, 6 to 9 a.m. This Week Today with Oliver Dickson.
It is 7 minutes after 6 o'clock. It's a Friday. It's time for This Week Today. Welcome to the show. It's what I'll call our first proper show of the year. And I want to say that because our streaming is back up live. So you can watch the show live on our Twitter, YouTube, as well as on our Facebook platform. You can see my face and you can see the faces of the guests that we have on the show. So thank you very much if for those who've always engaged the show on those platforms, but thank you very much. Or traditionally, you can just listen to 102 between 104 to 107 FM nationwide, or you can just simply stream us, www.safm.co.za. Or better yet, do what I do. Download the SABC Plus app, and you can listen to SAFM on that app and any of the other SABC radio stations. I prefer the app. I'll tell you why. Because the quality of the stream is just a lot better than the website. There's far fewer latency on that platform. The matric results came out today. Congratulations to all the learners that made it to matric firstly. And then congratulations to those that passed. And I want to say that I want to reiterate this. Education is not linear. Education is neither is education static. Education is ongoing and it's lifelong. If you did not do well in matric, perhaps you didn't get the results you had hoped for. Perhaps you didn't pass with an ability to get into an institution of further education, with a high institution of learning, like a university or an FET college. Perhaps you didn't even pass at all. I want you to think of it like this. I want you to think of education as something you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, because you should be doing it for the rest of your life. The way at which the world is changing right now, we constantly have to learn new information, learn new concepts, learn new skills, learn new technologies, learn new ways of doing things. And whether or not you learn that in a formal way or in an informal way, you're constantly learning. And so if you failed matric, or if you didn't do too well in matric, think of it as just about another year in a lifelong journey. It's just another year in a lifelong journey. You have the opportunity to redo it, to do it better. Perhaps you did pass it, but perhaps you think you could have done better. And perhaps you say to yourself, I want to spend this year just trying it again so I can do better, so I can leave high school with an education outcome that reflects my abilities, that reflects my potential. There's nothing wrong with just doing it again, just one more year. In fact, for many, just a few more weeks, just a few more months. But that as it may be, the matric results came out, and a number of patterns emerge. Firstly, the matric results pass rate is an improvement of 3.7%, right, from the previous year, nearly 4%. That's a tremendous improvement, given the great difficulty that a lot of learners and schools and teachers had to go through just to get through the year. It was not an easy year at all. But more than that, it shows that there is an ability to improve. How much further we have to improve is the real conversation, right? We need to improve not just the percentage of those who pass, but we need to improve the quality of those passes. Because here's the reality. While unemployment plagues South Africa tremendously, and it really does, graduate unemployment is not that bad in the greater scheme of things. Pre-COVID, graduate unemployment was only at 9%. That means if you had a degree pre-COVID, you stood a 92% chance, by the way, of finding employment, gainful employment. 92% chance. Graduate unemployment was hovering at 8 to 9%. The reality is our unemployment crisis is a crisis of the unskilled, and it's a crisis of the uneducated. The vast majority of South Africans who are unemployed only but have a matric or none at all. And this is why the journey to an institution of higher learning is such an important one. That's why the quality of the outcomes is an important one. The DG of the National Department of Basic Education called on to my show this morning on the Talking Point, and we had a back and forth about the quality of education and whether or not we actually dispensing good education in South Africa and what all of that really, really means. It was a meaningful conversation, an important one. But what we thought we would do, because we report, these outcome performances at a provincial fragmented categories, I want us to have the conversation at that level. Why is it that some provinces perform better than other provinces? I have 3 guests on the show this evening. I'm joined by Viola Mitsumi. Mitsumi is the MEC for Education in the Northwest Province. I'm also joined by Elijah Nkosi, who's the HOD in Mpumalanga for the Department of Education and the head of the Provincial Learner Improvement Plan. And I'm also joined by Mahlumbandile Kwase, who's the HOD for Education in the Department of Education in the Eastern Cape. We've reached out to similarly the provincial leadership in KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, and the Northern Cape. Well, they did acknowledge our request, but they just didn't get back to us. But we're joined by these 3 provinces: Northwest, we're joined by Mpumalanga, and we're joined by the Eastern Cape. Separately, how those provinces performed is that Northwest had a pass rate of 79.8%, Eastern Cape had a pass rate of 77.3%, and Mpumalanga had a pass rate of 76.8%. Let's take a quick break. On the other side of this, we begin the conversation.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAfm, let's talk. Oliver Dickson on SAfm.
I want to start off the conversation by speaking to Elijah Nkosi, who's the HOD for Education in Mpumalanga. Elijah, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining me on This Week Today. I just perhaps want to start here, and it's I want to appeal to you as the head of the Provincial Learner Improvement Plan. Traditionally, on aggregate, over the last 10 to 15 years, the Eastern Cape has typically been a bottom 3 province, typically last 2 ranked provinces. But this year it's been different. The Eastern Cape improved quite significantly on aggregate. Importantly, the Eastern Cape then also is not in the bottom 3 as it ordinarily and traditionally would have been, as the pattern persists over the last 10 to 15 years. That means that something in the learner improvement plan is working. What is it that you're doing, and what is it that's working? Elijah's joining us over Zoom, and it seems his Zoom might be muted. So let's see if we can get him to unmute his Zoom. But Elijah, if you can hear me, just signal to me that you can hear me. Otherwise, we may have to get you on our telephone line if our Zoom line is failing us at this stage. Give us a call if you want to be a part of the conversation, by the way. 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. Let's take a quick break and see if we can fix our technological quagmire here.
At SAfm Radio and at Oliver_speaking on Twitter. This Week Today with Oliver Dickson.
Given the nature of the dispute, the talks will basically, from my vantage point, be a restart of Brexit negotiations after the fact.
Yes, so remember that there was a view from the EU that because Northern Ireland being part of the United Kingdom, there would be a land border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. But of course, that goes against the spirit and the purpose of the Good Friday Agreement of 1998. But unfortunately, what then that does is that puts Northern Ireland exclusively under EU rule.
Musa Mdunge is a political analyst based in the United Kingdom.
This Week Today, Fridays, 6 to 7 p.m. Michelle Constant on SAfm.
Angela Day is a clinical psychologist. Talk to us a little more about the concept of regret.
You know, at the end of the day, no life is regret-free. But the important thing is not to wallow in the past. And sometimes that is juxtaposed the concept of anxiety. So it's so important that if we're not going to wallow in the past and we're not going to create ourselves a space of anxiety by going too far ahead, it leaves us the option of focusing on the now. What are we in control of? The now, right here, right now, this moment, and you make a conscious decision that I'm not going to trade this moment away.
Getting your weekend started right. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAfm.
You make my life so rich. You know you could have been some money.
Hi, my name is Khumotso Kechi Mweketsi, your host for Seasons, every Saturday and Sunday between 10 and 1. You will hear me playing this.
Hello, morning.
And if you love smooth jazz or all kinds of jazzy sounds, you can hear me do this. Seasons every Saturday and Sunday between 10 and 1.
This Week Today with Oliver Dickson.
We're still struggling to get our connectivity up, but give us a call, 086 000 2032. What do you make of the matric results? That's the number to dial. You can send me a WhatsApp voice note on 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. That's the number to dial if you'd like to send us a WhatsApp voice note. You can send it to that number. Look, the Democratic Alliance makes this argument that the real matric pass rate is 54% and not the 80.1% that the Department of Education is claiming that the matric pass rate is at, right? They make that argument. In support of it, they then make the claim and they use the mere fact that the number of learners that started grade 1 12 years ago, many of them didn't write matric. In fact, half of them didn't write matric, and from those who did pass, it only adds up to 54% of the cohort. The Department of Education argues that, well, you guys are just accounting throughput rate, right? And which is not what we're supposed to be counting. We're supposed to be counting pass rate, which is a different metric, they argue. I argued that the true matric pass rate lies in those who are able to get into an institution of higher learning, whether it be an FET college and preferentially whether it could be a university, right? But the reality is also we don't have enough university spaces. But the reality is the best way in South Africa to escape poverty, to meet unemployment, and to find a job is through further education, is through university degree. That's not to say you guarantee the job, but you certainly stand a much, much better chance of employability in the job market. So that's why those numbers matter. I wonder what you make of the numbers 086 000 2032. I know, for instance, the 30% pass mark and the 40% pass mark is still a controversial thing in South Africa. A lot of people still have very strong feelings about that. In fact, Musima Mane making the most noise about it, saying that subjects like life orientation should not be a part of it. I wonder what you make of it at 086 000 2032. I do have Elijah Nkosi, the HOD of Education in Mpumalanga, with me right now. Again, he's also the head of the Provincial Learner Improvement Plan. Elijah, can we hear you? Can you hear me? And hopefully I can hear you. I see that you're muted, but if you unmute, I certainly should be able to hear you.
Thank you. I do hear you. Good evening to you and our listeners.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate you making time to have this conversation with us. I don't know if you heard my earlier preface about Mpumalanga and the argument around there. But given that you are the head of the Learner Improvement Plan, what is that plan, and what from that plan would you say has worked this year?
Oh, thank you very much. I unfortunately I didn't hear your opening remarks, but I can certainly respond to the question that you have just raised in terms of what we believe has worked for us in improving the result in 2022.
I'm also going to ask you what didn't work.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. Look, the first core thing is that is to encourage learners to come to school. That's the very basic thing that we have done, which we think worked for us, to go on a campaign to make sure that learners do come to school to learn. And the second part being that teachers also go to our schools to teach. And if really we have learners in the classroom learning and we have our teachers teaching for 7 hours per day, it really makes a big difference. The second part of our intervention is that indeed, when our learners get into the classroom, what we discover are the learning gaps. And we're talking about the class that we know comes from very difficult conditions when they were in grade 10 in 2020 and grade 11 in 2021 during the hype of the pandemic. They couldn't be able to come to class on daily basis as we had wished to. So we discovered that content gaps, and the strategy then becomes to embark on extra classes. So our schools conducted morning classes, they conducted afternoon classes, a majority of them realizing the bigger challenges around the gaps, conducted weekend classes, and even school holiday classes that we as at a provincial level even supported by providing additional nutrition for our learners to be able to be in school during the school holidays, by also providing the best teachers possible in the province so that we're able to give an allowance to teach in the schools that we had identified to be experiencing challenges, which is another strategy of identifying schools that have not been doing very well in the past few years, and ensuring that we provide that additional support for them to be able to conduct extra classes and other activities to be able to succeed. But perhaps let me add this one. There are a number of strategies, but something that we have not done in other years, that we have not supported other cohorts of grade 12 learners, it's introducing technology in education by providing our grade 12 learners with tablets, 60,000 of them that are in quintile 1 to 3, which is our no-fee schools where the parents may not be able to provide additional support. So we gave them tablets that are loaded with study guides, with e-books, with an opportunity to be able to even go online. We gave them data, and so that they're able to access online videos, to be able to also access online lessons conducted by the best teachers around the province and even the country at large.
Yeah. When you started your answer, you said the strategy was getting learners to get to school to learn and getting teachers to get to school to teach. That's very trite because that's the whole point of it. But it's interesting to me that you started there, because it tells me that there was a disruption in that. There was a disruption in learners being at school to learn and a disruption in teachers being at school to teach. What were some of those disruptions and how have they been mitigated? Maybe also let me preface here this by asking, do you mean that there was a high absenteeism rate, both from the side of the learners and from the teachers, and a lot of teaching time has effectively been missed in the school calendar?
Not necessarily that there has been very seriously observed, but the bottom line have to be at school at all times and avoid these tendencies, which would normally be there, that learners would absent themselves from time to time, and teachers as well. So the point I was making is that is where we start to make sure that learners do come to school without fail, and our teachers also observe the teaching time as expected. I think that is the point. But generally, we know that this is what teachers are employed to do. That's what they are expected to do, go to school and go to class and teach.
Yeah.
But we know that there are challenges, and then that's why we emphasize that we shouldn't compromise on that.
Yeah. So let's go back to your learner improvement plan. What didn't work? What did you try, and it unfortunately just didn't work out?
Look, some of the endeavors that we wanted to do, you see, coming from the pandemic, we would have wanted to assess the learning losses that have been experienced our learners, so that as we move on, our strategy are fully informed by the actual findings as to what it is that learners lost during the pandemic,
right,
so that we can mediate on it successfully. That is one strategy that we think didn't work very well because we couldn't produce an appropriate report, particularly at a provincial or district level. But we know that some of these things did happen. But we are reflecting on it, that this is something that did not go as well as we had wished it should be. And this is what we want to do well or improve on in 2023, because the cohorts of learners that we still have in schools, they still have those learning gaps. And we need to be able to pinpoint exactly in each school what it is that learners are lacking, that they need to address for them to be able to succeed in the grade that they are in the current year.
What methodology did you attempt to employ in trying to ascertain what the learning losses were?
Well, one is to communicate directly to schools to conduct a diagnostic assessment.
What does that assessment look like?
That is an assessment that teachers should be able to develop to determine. You see, if a learner is moving from one grade to the next, there are certain basic concepts that the learner, by the time he gets to grade 10 or grade 12, should have achieved at an acceptable level.
Yeah.
And the diagnostic assessment tests if the learners that are in this grade on the key concept and fundamental concept are they achieving at the expected level, so that when you start teaching them at that grade, you know that you are moving on, or there's somewhere where you need to go down to and scaffold them and bring them to the expected level. So that's how the diagnostic report test looks. Yes.
So was the failure at the level of diagnostics?
I think the challenges were at the level of developing those kinds of diagnostic assessment, the capacity that we didn't manage very well to be able to build in our teachers to be able to develop those kinds of tests, and our inability to monitor, even those that were able to be developed, to monitor and be able to produce a report that these are the diagnostics tests that have been conducted, and these are the analysis of the challenges that learners have in different grades.
Right. So intuitively, I thought, I assume the thinking was teachers should know how to do this anyway, so we're just going to ask them to do it. And then you discovered along the way, very many teachers do not have that capacity. So your next step is to capacitate them to be able to develop diagnostics, perform the diagnostics assessment, and be able to give you a report on it at a school-by-school level, at a district level, so that you can formulate a provincial report on that. Am I understanding you correctly?
Correct. 100% correct. Oliver, eh?
Yeah. Give me a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. I'm going to speak very, very briefly, introduce into the conversation the MEC for Education in the Northwest, Viola Mutumi. But before I do that, I just want to take one or two of your calls. So do get those calls coming in on 086 000 2032. And you can send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Let's have a listen at some of your WhatsApp voice notes that came through on the WhatsApp line.
Good evening, Oliver. I think one of the important metrics that needs to be added to the announcement of the matric results is the grade average for each province. So, for example, you've got Free State, who celebrates having such a high pass rate. But what is the quality of those passes? You might have a big cohort, maybe 70% of those who passing with averages of about 45%. Whereas you have the Western Cape or Gauteng, where they have a slightly lower percentage of those who passed, but those who passed maybe passed with 60%, 70% averages.
Good evening, SAfm. This is Nikiwe from Bloom. The topic on our education, our matric results, the outcomes. This points to our focus in education. If we are going to paint everybody with the same brush and assume that everybody fits in the kinds of intelligence, kind of intellectual, neglecting the physical intelligence, neglecting the emotional and the spiritual intelligence, this is the question that we'll keep on asking and will not be answered. I think our education system needs a major transformation. That is not denying the fact that our matrics have done well and education has got some good in it. We just need to analyze ourselves and look at it a different way for a democratic South Africa. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Oliver. I think one of the important metrics that needs to be added to the announcement of the matric...
Sorry, we already played that voice note. Elijah, I want you to reflect on that first voice note around the subject code averages per province. Is there, because you have access to that level of minutiae as far as the data is concerned, has there been an improvement in the overall averages achieved per subject code at matric level?
Yes, there is. The averages are available, but I think we can appreciate that if we're to speak to subject averages at a level of pronouncing the result, it would be, a long program.
Yes, certainly.
67 subjects at grade 12 level. But those details are available to provinces to study them, and we look at them in order to gauge, as the caller says, the quality level of our performance. So the subject averages are available, and that's what we use when we do our subject improvement plan to ensure that you have an idea of what the whole class, how the whole class is performing compared to previous classes. And in fact, that is what is also being used at a level of standardizing the results to see if the average are far beyond the previous classes. That is where standardization happens. So that's a core area that the department uses.
Which subjects have you seen some of the greatest improvements as far as the subject average is concerned? And very specifically, do you see improvements in math, science, and languages?
This year, as you have noticed, that the results have improved across all provinces. It's also an indication that indeed, even across all subjects, there have been improvement in the averages, though very slight, even in mathematics and physical sciences, the subjects that are always experiencing low performances. But this year, we have seen that improvement even in the average passes as well.
Yeah.
And I think if you notice, even during the assessment, where you would pick up averages, you'll also pick it up in the number of distinctions that are reported, in the number of bachelor passes. More bachelor passes means majority of learners are passing at 50% and above in those subjects.
Yeah. Give us a call, 086 000 2032. MEC for Education in Northwest Province, Viola Mutsumi, is with us. MEC, thank you so much for your time. Also really do appreciate it. Northwest also saw a slight improvement of 1.6% from 2021 to 2022. Do you want to reflect on the results as achieved by the province of the Northwest?
No, Oliver, thank you for the opportunity, and also let me apologize in advance since I'm driving. I'm struggling in terms of network. But let me start by indicating that indeed, as the Northwest Province, we are happy about the increase of 1.6% compared to 78.2% that we obtained last year. That is the first point. Now we are at 79.8. But also I must mention that as much as we are happy, we are also disappointed in terms of us dropping from position 4 to position 5. Therefore, as the province, we are going to try our level best in making sure that we improve more. At least if KZN, for example, looking at the background of KZN, remember at one particular point they were occupying position 5. Now they are at position 3 on the basis that they've managed to improve their result by 6%. So it gives us hope that indeed, if we can put more efforts on our learners and teachers, definitely we can occupy position 1 or position 2.
Yeah. MEC, let's go here. What did you introduce new into the province from a improvement perspective? Was there an improvement plan of any sorts? What worked and what didn't?
Okay. What I can confirm, first and foremost, what we have done as the Department of Education is to analyze the results and identify the main problem that caused us, position 4, to be in position 5. What we have realized, if you can analyze all the results, Oliver, you'll realize that Bujanala district is one of the districts that used to perform consistently so. But now when you analyze 2022 results, actually they've underperformed. They're at minus 0.4, if I'm not mistaken, compared to other districts. So what we have picked up is that it seems like the biggest mistake that we committed as the province last year was to put more focus and concentration on the schools or districts that were not performing in 2021, for example. So this on its own, it has taught us a lesson that whatever intervention measures that we must come up with, we must make sure that we balance. As much as we give these particular schools that are underperforming support, the same must also apply to those particular schools that are performing. Hence, I believe that if really Bujanala could have been performed and maybe achieved more than 1.2 or 2% pass rate, definitely either will be still in that particular position 4 or position 3.
Yeah. I want to introduce into the conversation the HOD for Education in the Eastern Cape, Mahlubandile Kwase. Mahlubandile, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. What's your reflection on the results for the Eastern Cape province? Also, quite a drastic improvement from 73% the previous year to 77.3%, which is an improvement of about 4.3%. That's quite significant. What did you try that worked and what didn't work?
Thanks for that question. As a province, firstly, we did a thorough analysis of our performance in the previous years, and we compared the past 5 years, district by district in the 12 districts. We then set clear targets for each district because our intention was to ensure that we increased at least by 4% or 5% as a province. And then to achieve that, we then allocated specific figures for all the 12 districts based on their performance in 2021. And indeed, the majority of the districts have achieved those targets, and others surpassed their targets. Hence, we are at 77.3 now. But Alfred West, which is now number one, which has toppled the PCM, Buffalo City Municipality, which has been number one in the province last year. What they did is to strengthen accountability measures up to a school, up to a subject teacher. So the
what does that mean?
Director, they hold monthly accountability sessions to track the performance of the schools. Not only just the overall performance, but in terms of the subject, how is that person performing against what he has committed to do and achieve in that particular quarter. So they've aggregated the schools according to their performance, and then establish this accountability forum on a monthly basis, which is chaired by the district director, together with the social partners. Your unions are there, your members of the district education forum, which are either private and NGOs and other stakeholders, are part of that accountability session. And the analysis is put there, and the principal and his or her educator must account for what is happening, especially in the underperforming schools. And that has really pushed educators to do better. That's one of the important things that Alfred Nzo West has done to be where it is now. So they will be continuing that and also standing up on some of the weaknesses. But the second issue, in the Chris Hani East, which is now number 4, which nearly toppled Nelson Mandela, which is number 3, one of the consistently performing districts, is now number 4 in Chris Hani, just after Nelson Mandela. What they did, they also conducted an analysis of the schools that are underperforming and those that are performing, and decided to move learners from schools that are underperforming, especially the grade 12 and the grade 11s, and they put them in other performing schools, so that these schools can be consolidated and refocused to produce better learners, but without the pressure of focusing on grade 11, grade 12, but at the same time without jeopardizing the future of those grade 11 and grade 12 learners. So that's what they've done there, and there's been a significant improvement. Then one of the best performing schools, which is Nyanga, which is in the same district, Chris Hani East, the principal mobilized other schools in the area. Some of them were performing at 34, others at about 40%. But through that collaboration of the best performing school with the lower performing schools, they have moved those schools from about 34% to about 70% in that second. So these are some of the interventions that have been put in place. I must indicate that there are schools that were consistently performing at a higher level in the province, and these are high enrollment schools, but they have since dropped significantly, and it's the worrying factor. Your St. John's College, your St. James, your JS Kenjan, these are maths and science pure schools, and they are big, and they've been performing above 90%, but they have significantly dropped. So because of the dynamics in a school where there are tensions that have just cropped up, and we could see in all these schools that such things have got a negative contribution to progress. So we'll be focusing on those going forward.
Yeah. Give us a call, 086 000 2032. MEC Mutsumi, usually when the matric results come out, it also brings into stark contrast the throughput rate, especially across a 12-year span. South Africa generally doesn't do too well as far as our throughput rate is concerned for various reasons. Dropouts due to failing, dropouts, death, which is not that significant, but it's a factor. And a lot of learners, for instance, deciding to leave the high school environment after grade 9 and going to an FET institution and pursue their education there. Although at the Department of Basic Education at a national level, the DG there claims that that's actually a growing number, and it's a significant number of grade 9 learners who pass grade 9 and choose to move on to an FET college, for instance. But the throughput rate nonetheless is of worrying concern. What is the throughput performance holistically in the Northwest?
Oliver, I did not capture you correct well. Can you kindly repeat yourself?
What is the throughput rate like, and is it a figure that you're happy with as far as the Northwest is concerned? And that, of course, is usually something we also speak about every time the matric results come out. We also speak about the throughput, those who started grade 1 12 years ago and who were able to make it to grade 12, and from that who did pass and that sort of thing. So throughput rate also has an impact in the outcome. What is the throughput rate performance of the Northwest?
In terms of, let me just indicate, Oliver, that currently as the province, we are still confronted with challenges of unplaced learners' admission. And then when you analyze per district in terms of which district actually has so many challenges regarding that, you'll find out that actually the most affected grade in the Northwest is grade 9 and grade 8. We are still struggling basically in terms of placing those particular learners to their preferred schools based on the issue of high rate of enrollment in our schools. I just hope that I have captured you well in terms of your question. What I can confirm now is that we've got a high enrollment of grade 8 and grade 9. Hence, I've mentioned that in terms of this particular challenge that I've mentioned, to say that as the province we are still confronted with, even now, it has not been resolved, is that particular issue of unplaced learner admission in those particular grades.
I mean,
so that's confirm.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a separate issue, but I'll clear that up just for you just now. Elijah, okay. I want to give you an opportunity to reflect on the throughput rate question as well. What has that throughput rate performance been like in Mpumalanga over the last couple of years?
Thank you. We've seen it improving over the years, as especially now, probably because of the reduced pass rate in grade 10 and 11. We have a total of 72,000 learners in grade 12 in 2022, and more or less the same now in 2023. And in the province, we started grade 1 with around 90,000 learners. So you can see 70,000 of the 90,000, you could say simplistically, have managed to reach grade 12. You're still concerned, of course, about the 20,000 or 18,000 that would have started 12 years ago that are not yet at grade 12. And we can't say all of them have dropped out.
Yeah.
Some of them have been retained over the years in the grades. They're still in the system. But indeed, some of them probably end up going to FET colleges, like we have said, and probably dropping out due to various reasons. But I think we're very content with the level of improvement we have made. In past years, our grade 12 has been around 60,000.
Yeah.
When we had started with 90,000, and so that was a bit low.
Yeah.
So it has improved up to now.
Okay, Mahlubandile, do you want to reflect on the throughput rate for the Eastern Cape for us? Mahlubandile?
Hello?
Yes, there we go.
Yes. On the throughput rate, we've been doing an analysis comparing the year 2017 and moving backwards 12 years.
Yeah.
And then we did that up to 2021, that analysis. And we've discovered at least that what was happening in 2017 is that you would register about 200 learners in grade 1 12 years ago. But when we wrote in 2017, I think about 30% of the learners that were registered for grade 12. So which means we're losing about 70% of the learners that initially started at grade 1. But that analysis showed a significant improvement of that phenomenon up to 2021. that at least were able to register at grade 12 more than 60% now of those learners who started. So there's still a problem of either repetition or a dropout, especially from grade 9 to 10. You begin to see that drop in terms of the performance of learners, in terms of the pass rate and all that. And maybe it's also others are leaving the system in the process, others are retained. But what is pleasing is that there was a phenomenon called progressed learner, which means a learner which would repeat either once in a phase, and is then progressed to another phase because he has already repeated once in a phase. So we have also seen a reduction in terms of those progressed learners this time around by 1,731 in the province. To about 5,000 of those progressed learners, as compared to last year where we were standing at about 7,000 plus. So which means we're beginning to deal with either the repetition rate, which leads to this phenomenon called the progressed learner and all that. So we could see that at least we are beginning to make a dent, but we still remain with that problem of repetition and as well as dropout in the system.
Give us a call, 086 000 2032. Let's go to the lines. Tembelihle out in PE. Good evening. Tembelihle.
Look, man, I feel like can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Sometimes I feel like the matric is overrated in South Africa. That's why children, they get too much pressure. Sometimes that's why some they can't even reach. Think about it. You only get media coverage when you're in grade 12. Throughout the other grades, they don't care. What could be that? That's my view.
Okay, that's a fair view. That's a very fair view to have. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. MEC Mutumi, do you think that's a fair view that we place too much emphasis on grade 12 and not on the other grades, that we should place an equal amount of emphasis on, let's say, grade 9 or grade 7, hypothetically?
Equally, I agree with that caller who just mentioned that particular issue. But at the same time, we must understand that when we talk about the grade 12, we are talking about learners who now are being progressed from that particular phase of being subjected to schooling, now going to a higher institution. Hence, we are using this grade 12 to encourage others who are still in other lower grades. But at the same time, I think the most important thing that we must do, starting from now on, is to focus at our foundation phase. Because if you don't have a proper foundation at that particular point, automatically it means that you cannot expect to make miracles. You cannot expect to register improvement in terms of quality of the results of the matriculants. So I think what we must do as the Department of Education, we must go back to basics and try to balance. We've got a foundation phase. We do have grade 8, who plays that particular phase of grade 8 and grade 9. We must agree that it plays a very vital role in making sure that we do have at the end proper results. So I think we must balance. But the most important thing, the reason why now, as South Africa, we are mostly focusing on grade 12 is the instrument that we choose, or a tool that we choose to use in order to determine whether as a department we are doing good or bad.
Give us a call, 086 000 2032. We have a number of WhatsApp voice notes. Let's have a listen at the WhatsApp voice notes that came through on our WhatsApp line on 0614 104 107. Let's have a listen at this.
Just wondering if all the hype about the wonderful pass rates is a little bit misleading, if the pass mark has been lowered. Andrew Durban.
That pass mark question is a sore thumb in the South African education system. It's perhaps an unfair question to ask any one of my panelists right now because they're all set at provincial levels. But do you want to take a shot at it, Elijah?
Look, the minister addressed this question. There is no lowering of pass marks or pass averages. It's just the system, the way it is structured, it provides different categories of passes, and we report on all of them. And I think generally, perhaps people ignore or choose to focus on the lower end. But the report as it stands, even provinces, we all take pride in the number of bachelor passes, which is at the largest number of percentages that you have in the system, which is the good quality pass that probably everyone is looking for.
Yeah.
But because we still recognize and want to give learners that have managed the minimum pass, an exit certificate, and then there's a focus. I think the minister even said, you're talking about 100 and something learners all over the country that have just passed at that level. The rest of the cohort has passed very well.
Yeah. Okay. do you wanna reflect on that, MEC Viola Mutumi?
Actually, I share a same sentiment with the spokesperson and Kataruna Elijah. Even yesterday, like you already mentioned, that the emphasis from the minister was that she managed to give us even the number of learners who passed by that 30%, to say that it is out of thousands and thousands, it is only 117, if I'm not mistaken. So I share the same sentiment.
Yeah. I just want to say it's a different Elijah. Let's have a listen at this last WhatsApp voice note. Oh, we seem to have lost that WhatsApp voice note. Just for closing comments, and I want to give you just 1 minute each. Elijah, do you think, based on the improvements that have happened within Mpumalanga over the last year, do you see a sustained improvement over the next year?
Yes, we do. In fact, we're targeted to go over 80 because of the trends. I think in the province, we've been in the 70s over the past 5 years. We've managed to sustain that level. We've registered this around 3% improvement this year, and we're looking forward. I think it is very clear that if we continue to work at the rate that we're working, we'll be able to cross the 80% margin very soon.
Yeah, MEC Mutumi, do you wanna reflect on that? Do you think, based on where the improvements come from, that there will be sustained improvement over the next year?
Definitely, I'm confident that come next year, especially the North. Let me talk about my province, the Northwest Province. So based on the result that we got, improvement of 1.6, based on the discussions that we had with principals and managers, district managers, and so on, I'm so confident that come next year, the improvement will be far, far from what we got this year.
Mm-hmm. And just finally, Mahlubandile, do you project sustained improvement?
If you look at how we have been performing as a province, we've been increasing our results between 4% and 5% per annum since 2016. And we just dropped during in 2020 because of the effects of COVID. And we then bounced back again to 73% last year, and now we've improved by 4.3. So given the initiatives that we have put in place, I think we will be able to crack 80% and be able to sustain. I'm looking also even in terms of the quality of the results. 6 districts are above the provincial average of 36.4% in terms of bachelors. And the 2 of those districts are above 40% of bachelors that have been produced by those districts. So it's in line with the target that we have set with the districts in terms of bachelors, in terms of distinctions and all that. So we think that if we can continue with what we have already started, we'll be able to sustain the improvements.
Mahlubandile Kwasa, who's the HOD for the Department of Education in the Eastern Cape. Viola Mutumi is the MEC for Education in Northwest Province. Elijah Nkosi, the HOD for Education in Mpumalanga. Thank you so much for your time. Really, really do appreciate it. That brings us to the end of the show. From myself and Lisego, have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe. Back with you next week. Cheers.
Independent and impartial. SAfm News.
The top stories